The Evening Brothers are proud to present Twinkie Talk.
All right, Lincoln,
Did you
screw it up?
actually do it?
No, I did such a good job
All right.
just then.
Oh, good. We're so proud of you.
Welcome to Twinkie Talk, everybody. This is the only podcast on the internet where three white guys talk about film, turns out. Did you know that? It's the only one.
I'm not surprised. I think it's a really unexplored niche.
It's a
in the
niche
internet
market,
space.
absolutely. I am Brother John.
I am Brother Lincoln.
And I am Brother Preston.
Great.
You know,
Lincoln,
we never
there's
know.
a pause there.
We never know what
Like-
order we're going to go in. We just know Preston is last.
Yeah, which
Right.
kind of means we know the
Well,
order,
it's
no?
whoever goes first. I feel like it's the same as the movie order.
Jonathan,
Oh.
me,
I do.
you.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's always how it is.
That makes sense. Whoever's
Yeah,
choosing
that
the
makes
next
sense.
movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's smart.
I don't know.
Well, I made you guys watch the movie
I liked that
Hellboy.
pause though, Lincoln.
Oh, yes,
What?
you did.
Did you?
I
Are you happy about that? Did I? You're welcome.
No.
Question mark.
I texted both of you that I was getting so sick of the movie, and you were like, where are you in the movie? And I was like, oh, about an hour 45. But I didn't actually check because then about 10, 15 minutes later, I paused it, and that was an hour 45. And it was like, really? Really? Like I was 15 minutes earlier in the movie than I thought.
You got stuck in a loop.
It was terrible.
You know, for the first quarter to maybe a third of the movie, I was like, oh, this isn't terrible. Like it's not great, but it's not, I don't know if it's, this podcast bad. and then I got to the end and I said, oh yeah, this is 1,000% this podcast bad.
Yeah.
They're just the tank towards the end is so strong.
It gets pretty rough. It gets hard. I'm gonna put my cards
bad.
on the table. Unlike Lincoln, who didn't tell us this about Dune, I love this movie. I am fully aware that it's terrible. I know this, so this is not me saying it's a good movie. I have seen this so many times, and I love it. And I'm really excited for you guys to make me all very sad. I'm gonna be real sad about it.
Excellent.
Okay, that's
Well, thank you for picking a movie to punish us, even though, and I guess we get to punish you
I mean, that's the thing. I think
with.
I will know. Sorry to interrupt you, Preston. Were you
it's fine.
were you nearing down the end? I couldn't.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You never interrupt me.
Are
It's
you
cool.
almost done or what?
Sorry. Wait. Go ahead. Never. I apologize. Go ahead, John.
No.
Go ahead, Preston.
I forgot what I was talking about. So
No,
it's all
I
you,
insist.
Lincoln. No.
This is great. Hey, any second we spend not dishing on this movie is the second I get to be happy.
What I want to say, John, is that this was the first movie out of all the ones we've been made to watch that I felt punished. That I felt like I am suffering. I am physically suffering because of this movie.
Yes. Yeah, you texted us
Really?
at some point in there and you said you found the vibe, and I was very happy to hear this.
Yeah. John, you have found the vibe.
It happened for me. All right, so I guess we're jumping in. Pretty quickly, we get a little bit of backstory on Nimue, the Blood Queen.
Nimue.
And the Dark Ages for fucking good reason. Which
Oh, when they said that, I was like, oh no, this movie was made after Deadpool, wasn't it?
oh yeah, this is the Deadpoolification of Hellboy. But what I love, okay, so here's the thing that I appreciate about this movie. It is so chock-a-block full of things from the comic and things from like other lore and source material and all that. So it's clear someone cared about Hellboy. And then they take that and they make it fundamentally the opposite of what Hellboy is. Like as far as you can get from what Hellboy in the comic is. And there's just something beautiful about like clearly a divided team that one of them wanted to make a good Hellboy movie and the other was like, Hellboy's the one who does a punch to monsters, no?
He does a punch, then he say a quippy thing, and then he does a punch.
Hellboy Big Hand say a fuck word, no? Yes, I think.
Hellboy see a shit word and then blood. Then much blood, many blood comes out.
Just as much blood as we can possibly get.
Much CGI blood.
So
very
much.
CGI blood.
Okay, so we learn Nimoy's backstory. She was betrayed by King Arthur and the witches, and they separated her body.
Which ones?
The witches. Her witches.
Which ones?
The witches.
Which
The
ones?
witches of Waverly Place.
Place.
This is audio poison.
I can really hear your German heritage speaking through when you say place.
place. We learned that she was cut into many, many pieces and separated into several boxes. Oh, also, I was going to say before we started.
Not in a funny way, though.
Not at all. No, it's taken 100% serious.
Not in a silly way.
Oh, okay. So yeah, no.
Which is so funny because the narration is so silly and goofy, and then what you're seeing on the screen is just so bleak
Oh yeah.
and intense, and there's definitely some, like, I'm not gonna say like outright confusion,
I
but
think
some like maybe some dissonance there.
you might venture to say confusion. I think confusion is not too strong a term for this film.
I don't think confusion hits until a little bit later. Actually, that was fun. Like I said before, I've seen this many, many, many times. And even this time, I was watching it through, and we got about halfway through, and I was like, I know that he's going to talk to Baba Yaga, and I know that there's going to be a flashback with this weird troll thing. Don't know how that fits in. I have no concept of where that goes. Anyway, we'll get to that. So we jump to Tijuana, Mexico. And this is why I
Yes.
had you guys do your homework, because I wanted you to experience, as to use Preston's beautiful word, the dissonance between what the comics are and what this movie chooses to be.
Yeah. So we read the Hellboy comic about his adventure in Tijuana.
Uh-huh. Do you have any?
it was great.
Any thoughts on this?
I loved it. Was very like kind of quiet.
Yeah.
It was very thoughtful. I think it well conveyed the idea of someone who's knows his destiny is to destroy evil, but is very also aware of like the consequences of that destiny.
For sure.
And so it really paints him as like a very relatable hero who is just all too aware of the kind of stuff that he has to do in order to keep the world safe.
Yeah. Preston?
Yeah, so I watched half of this movie somewhere between weeks and, well, it was probably a couple months ago at least. I don't know why I'd never finished it.
Oh, I know why.
I've got some theories.
But I remember like watching the wrestling scene and like actually being like, okay, this is actually like kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then reading the comic and then getting to watch that. I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like I like this. Like I like the dilemma this is setting up for Hellboy.
Yeah.
And then they just took that whole interesting concept and threw it out the window.
Directly in the garbage.
The funniest thing is
immediately.
the end of the comic is after he is bonded with the three luchadors, after they fought monsters together, and one of them gets kidnapped and turned into a luchador. Also, in the comic, he's taken to like a wrestling match filled with like skeletons and
Yeah.
like ghosts and stuff. And this one's just a regular
It's
place.
just a straight up place where people do a wrestle.
And there's been no mention of who this guy is or why they're wrestling. It's just like, oh, Hellboy's here, and he's gonna wrestle him.
Yeah, no, they just go to Guy Fieri's wrestle house and they throw some meat around. That's what this is about. Okay, so that like I said, that's why I had you read this, is because I needed you to experience just that feeling of like you almost got what you were going for. Like you almost understood what this was about. And like the comic, I think, is, Lincoln, like you said, it's so good because it's quiet and because it's like ethereal, and Hellboy is wandering around this wasteland and he's trying to figure out like where he fits in this world and all that. All of that is really, really good. And he feels remorse for bringing these people into this like horrible fight against evil and how bad that goes. And then the movie's just like, you know what was cool about that comic? A big vampire. Hellboy fought a big vampire.
Yeah,
Isn't
so I finished that scene And then I was like, oh, great. The movie has 8 more minutes left. We're just going to kind of let Hellboy quietly regret all of the events leading up to this. And then we're going to fade to black. And it's going to be this beautiful short tale. It's going to be reflective. But no, this movie has like an hour and a half still.
The movie hasn't even started. And that
it hasn't even started.
I feel like at its core, that's the problem with this movie is that it's 18 movies. Like there's so many movies in this movie.
And before we get any further, I just want to say off the back, I really thought David Harbour could act.
Hey, he can. He just doesn't apply that skill here.
Like I really thought he could.
I will agree with that. Especially seeing as this is now my second David Harbour movie this week.
Yes.
Which isn't that many, but it's weird that it happened twice. And I legitimately think he did the same thing for both movies, basically. It's just one, he's sort of Santa-ish, and the other one, he's sort of devilish.
And it's not the one you think.
It's not the one you think it is.
Take a guess which is which.
I think it just really goes to show that even good actors cannot go with bad scripts. Like script determines so much more about a movie than I think we tend to believe or tend to think.
Yeah. I appreciate that he tried something. I feel like most actors would try to just act their way through a bad script. He just tried to scream through it, which I think was an interesting choice. I kind of respect that he was just like, did you say yell this? And they're like, it's a quiet scene between you and your dad. And he's like, okay, yell it. Cool.
Okay. Dad, the louder I am, the faster this goes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which can we talk about I just a bad script. Ian McShane would have been such a great character. It's just totally wasted.
Oh,
totally wasted.
For sure.
With this script.
Absolutely.
And story and everything.
This whole movie like parades great actors in front of you, and it's just like watch them try to undo the damage that we have done. Like it's like this review of everyone that you love just like trying their absolute best and just they can't. It's too bad.
I guess that is where we do meet Ian McShane as Professor, and this is another fun thing. Depends on who you ask in this movie, because the character's name it's pronounced Professor Broom, but it's spelled Brutenholm. And somewhere in the many, I assume, reshoots in this movie, they got those two mixed up and they start pronouncing it Brutenholm, and sometimes they pronounce it Broom, sometimes it's Brutenholm, which is fun for me because why would it ever be pronounced differently than how you'd pronounce it?
Would it make you sad if I was so little invested in this movie that I never caught that?
Not only would it not make me sad, it would make me sad if you did catch it, because I have like 3 fun facts and they're all mistakes and I don't know how long I can drag those out.
Perfect, because I also did not pick up on that at all.
Good. Oh, perfect.
I had no idea what his name was. I wasn't even sure if the main character's name was Hellboy. I was like, red guy, Blackbeard,
Red man, the lady.
Cool guy from my favorite part of Lost.
Which is kind of funny. I think the only time they actually say Hellboy is at the very end when Ian McShane does does the absolute worst dad speech ever.
We'll get to
says,
that.
Goodbye, Hellboy.
We will get to the floating head dad speech. This is the first movie I've brought to the table that I don't think is going to go so far off the rails. I feel like I have to hold us in and talk chronologically, and that's new for me. I'm excited about that. Before we jump past Hellboy in Mexico, the Kamasuts weird vampire man, Esteban, he gives some sort of weird prophecy on the end coming, and then he says Anung Un Rama, which we later learn is Hellboy's name. When Hellboy tries to say, he said something about nong 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 nong, and I think
he said something about nom 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 nom
nom the Destroyer. I think it was
Muncher of Worlds.
That's what I heard for sure.
Then he does get brought back to the BPRD, I believe in Colorado.
In Colorado.
Yes. Okay. That's this one.
Yeah, state.
Yeah, a
they
state.
really lean into the really large. title cards in this movie.
Oh boy, do they! Yeah, they went full Civil War on this one.
That is a
I was about to say they
that
saw
is a
Civil War.
trend that I hate.
Oh, it's so dumb.
This movie is like a distillation of every like action movie cynical trend that was happening in the 2000s, except they were doing them like 5 years late each.
Right. Yeah, it's like if Sony tried to make a Spider-Man related movie but didn't have Spider-Man. Of course, they wouldn't do that, but it would be like if
Of course
they
not.
did that.
Yeah, it'd be like imagining if they tried to make, say, like a Madam Web movie.
God,
or
I
something
guess
like that.
if they chose to make that call, it would probably be something like that. Yeah.
It'd probably be like this terrible just construction of everything that's wrong with the movie industry.
I don't know. They would never make a Morbius movie. He was only in like 2 comic books, Preston. Anyway, this is one thing that I think works about the movie. I like the BPRD as a concept, and I think that they bring it like into this world pretty well. Just this group of people that are like all trying to fight a bunch of weird, crazy monsters and shit. I think they do a pretty good job making that feel like a real thing. You walk past the slab of dead BPRD agents and they're like writing Esteban on there, which is a sad little moment. I like that.
It was a little use of visuals to convey a feeling.
It was like they remembered they were making a movie and they could like tell a story with that movie.
Mm-hmm. And they told a little story and I was like, oh hey, look, a story.
Oh hey, look, a little story. This is where we do meet Professor Broom, his adopted dad. Another flashback we'll get into later.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna get it if you say Professor Broom. Can you either say Blackbeard or Professor Broom?
Oh, sorry, yeah, Professor
Professor Blackbeard. Professor Black Broom.
Professor Broombeard, and
Professor Broombeard,
my favorite Harry Potter character.
Ancient civilizations and magical items.
Yeah, the 2. He teaches both. It's a 0 period.
2 different classes.
He files off his horns in a tender little moment, and he gives what I think is the most uncomfortable line in the movie, where he says to Hellboy, "It's a beautiful face," but he says it with way too much sexual tension, far too much for an adoptive dad, if you ask me.
Yeah.
This is my fun fact number 2 of 3 about this movie, things that go wrong. If you watch that scene closely enough, when he's filing the horns, you can see the prosthetics move up and down, which I think is pretty fun.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that. I just assumed it was like, maybe they're just like touched right on the surface of the skin. So it's like Hellboy's horns start over his skin.
Well,
and not
sure. Why
part
wouldn't
of the
they?
skull.
Like a me that you moved its eyebrows out a little too far.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Also, Hellboy goes. He says something like, "If my face could talk."
He does say,
it
"If
would
my
say
face could talk."
And I was like, buddy, your face is the only part
It
of you that
is.
can talk. Oh, can we just point out, we haven't really talked about this yet, but his costume is
I was
so
going to
rough.
ask you, what do you guys think about his look in this movie? What do you think about the design?
It's like,
Who, Winston or Hellboy?
Hellboy. Yeah, what do you think of his little shirt? Like, no, what do you think of Hellboy?
it's like too realistic and too cartoony at the same time.
It's a lot to take in. He's a very grubby boy.
I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's particularly awesome.
I just looked up some stills from the original Hellboy movies, and I looked at Ron Perlman's like prosthetics and makeup, and I was like, this looks so much better. This is like better in almost every way. He looks like a comic book character, but he also looks like he actually fits in the world where he lives.
He does, that's true.
Like, it looks like he's part of the universe.
But I also don't feel like
This one-
that Hellboy would fit into this world. I dig the design of Hellboy. I know that that's a thing that most people, Lincoln, you're in a very a well-populated ship on that one. But I like his design. I think it's gross and weird, and it fits this weird heavy metal 80s movie tone that I think happened upon on accident, but
because it's definitely not like in the cinematography.
No, they didn't. They clearly didn't try.
You could 100% tell me this movie was from the 80s, and I would believe you.
Yeah.
Like if you took the quality and just like downgraded it just a little tiny bit,
Just play it at
and this would
720p.
be a great 80 movie, and somehow it would make it better.
I think if I was watching like VHS lines kind of like move up and down the
Ooh,
screen the
yeah.
whole time, I would be forgiving a lot more.
That'd be pretty
This
sick.
movie has.
That'd be pretty sick. Yeah, it's a clean little movie, unfortunately, that was made in 4 years ago. What year is it? Currently.
4 years.
4 years ago.
You know what would really make it feel like an 80s movie? If just completely half-hearted needle drops happened every 45 seconds.
God, if only. Can you imagine how cool that would be? How great would that be?
You know, that's the
I
other
wouldn't
thing.
get tired of it at all.
There's so many songs in this movie
Yeah.
that I like listen to and love and wasted every single one.
Oh yeah, out of context, the
Every
soundtrack.
goddamn one of them.
The soundtrack is great out of context, but then
Yeah.
but then you get to Mexico and they start playing "Rock You Like a Hurricane" in Spanish, and you're like, son of a bitch. Okay.
And you're like, yes, famous Mexican tune. Just, blew up in Mexico. Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Oh yeah, they love it. They love it down there. This is where we hear about the Osiris Club, where he makes joke 1 out of 2 about Osiris Club being a strip club in Jersey. Not a funny joke one
of
time.
2?
Definitely not a funny joke the second time.
There's he brings it up more than that, I'm pretty sure.
Does he? I'm pretty sure it's just 2. Because he brings it up with
No, I think he makes 2 jokes in that sequence, and then later on, whatever room they're in with Churchill's desk, with 2 more jokes about that don't
Does
land.
he make more jokes? at
I'm pretty
Churchill's
sure he
desk?
talks a couple more times to X-Men Origins secret agent dude about the Osiris Club being a strip club. Or is that the second time?
I fully don't know who X-Men Origins secret agent dude is, because I haven't seen X-Men Origins in like several years.
Dude,
I've never seen the movie X-Men Origins Secret Agent.
oh. Well, the cat dude.
Oh, he's from... I called him my favorite part of Lost. That's what I was saying.
Oh, no. Daimyo, yeah. I know. Yeah.
There we go. Scarface.
Yeah, Scarface. Another hilarious goof.
A different Scarface. Let's look up what his actual name is. I had it and I forgot it.
Well, he
anyways,
hasn't showed up in the movie yet, has he, Lincoln? Chronological.
Oh, sorry. I'll just keep
that was
it on
my bad.
reserve
I
just
brought
in
him up.
case.
That's true. But it's more fun to pile on Lincoln about these things.
David
come on,
Harbour.
Lincoln, you
oh,
idiot.
wait, never mind. Shoot.
I'm just gonna let Lincoln Google for a minute. This scene has the most awkward exit of a scene I think in all of film, where he makes a joke about there being a giant problem, and Hellboy goes, "What's the problem?" And then Professor Broombeard goes, "Giants." And then Hellboy eats a bite of pizza and goes, "Ah ha 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 ha," and then it cuts away.
That's the first time I wrote, "Hey, good joke." Because this movie broadcasts its jokes so much. It's like there's almost we're not that far away from there appearing like a neon sign that goes joke whenever there's a joke.
Applause.
I think that actually would have improved this. That would have been
I
pretty
think it
sweet.
might have.
I think it was Lincoln. I think you sent to the group chat that there's space after every single joke for a laugh track.
Yeah.
And somehow I don't think it would make this movie any worse.
It'd be an interesting viewing experience if it just started with like Hellboy was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
I would love a Hellboy variety show a la like the Dick Van Dyke Show. Like a old timey, we're on one big set that rotates and there's like little scenes that play and Hellboy is in all of them.
It's just like the lowest possible stakes. He's walking around town, helps a kid find an ice cream cone.
Yes.
That'd be sick.
I would love Hellboy. A Hellboy Christmas special. Like that sounds amazing.
You could really lean into the like where I thought they were going with anyways.
There were
I
no
just told
nouns
you.
in that sentence,
Hey,
Preston.
Yeah,
Hey, Preston,
I'm aware.
you know that you have to finish
Wasn't
the
much of a
sentence for us to hear it, right? You know you can't just start it and we'll go, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, never mind. I forgot where I was going with that. We'll just cut that out.
I don't think we will. We
Yeah, we won't.
I'm trusting my notes on this because I genuinely don't remember if this is the next thing that happens. But the next thing that happens is we see the Gruagach, which is the big pig man. And he is talking to who we learn, you're welcome, Preston, who we learn is Baba Yaga eventually. She tells him about Nimue and where to find her weird box of bones or skin or whatever she is. And apparently that's a scene that happens. I forgot that happened.
It is one of the like single, well, there's a lot of bad editing choices in this film, but this is one of the like most just like no-brainer. They're talking about giants and they're like, there's 2 giants out. They say something about like, there's giants out. And then they cut to magical creatures that for all we know are those giants.
That's a good point.
And it wasn't, for me, it wasn't until I actually saw the other giants that I was like, oh, those weren't the giants that we were talking about. Because, you know, like in a movie, for instance.
These aren't the giants you're looking for.
like it makes sense in a movie if you're having a dialogue scene about an enemy you gotta face, and then you cut to a bunch of enemies, you maybe expect that those are the ones that you were just talking about.
Those are probably the guys that you were literally one business second just talking about.
Yeah, one imperial business second.
And the giants are like kind of played and like built up a little bit, and then they don't actually, like, it makes 0 sense to keep the giants in there. Like, they could have just had the secret society betray him.
Oh yeah,
and call it a day.
I do thoroughly.
No, because if there wasn't giants, where are we going to get like oodles and oodles of CGI blood?
Hey, that was a pretty sick scene. We'll get to that, guys, boys. Hey, boys, refocus. That's not here yet, is it?
I guess it's not.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Fine, Dad.
Dad. No, Dad.
Hellboy goes
I'm
to
gonna
the
tell Mom
Osiris
all
Club.
about how you made us watch Hellboy.
You know what? I dare you. I dare you to tell her. Hellboy talks
Wow,
with the
you're not
Osiris.
a very nurturing father, John.
I'm a terrible dad. I'm horrible. You've known this about me. I didn't choose to have you as kids. You just showed up one day as fully fledged adults.
Well, not fully fledged.
Well, half-fledged.
At some point, in my notes, it just says, this is a hip, cool movie for hip, cool kids.
Oh, cool. Do you remember where that was? Whenabouts?
It was right after I said, love these needle drops, and I love the most stereotypical shots of London imaginable.
So that could have been literally anywhere at any time in this movie. That's cool.
And then, yeah, at some point I said, this is a hip, cool movie for hip, cool kids.
It is a hip, cool movie for hip, cool kids. We cut to the Osiris Club with Hellboy. They explain what the Wild Hunt is, which is just going around for hunting giants. We meet Elizabeth Hatton, who is a psychic. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. She does the second of 4 expositional flashbacks.
She sure does. She sure does. And that's where we meet the ugliest fucking CGI baby I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
Wait, do they actually have a CGI baby Hellboy?
Yeah. Did you not watch the movie again?
No, I definitely did. I just, for whatever reason, do not have a memory of a baby Hellboy from this
Hang on.
movie titled Hellboy.
I'm gonna send you a screenshot.
It's bad. It's like a child in the mid-90s wished a cartoon into existence.
In the worst possible way.
Oh yeah, it's rough. It's bad.
Oh boy, I'm looking at it again and I sort of wish I wasn't. I'm gonna drop that in our chat here. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Good. And send it. Yeah, good. Send. All right, so you can feel free to take a look at that while you're looking.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, I definitely.
You remember CGI Hell Baby?
Oh
Yeah. Wow, looking at it now again, I think I did see it. I just my brain is blocking it out.
Not think about it.
It's how you respond to trauma. Just it's the easiest way is to just of forget that it happened in the first place.
Yeah.
On the subject of his
Yikes.
backstory, we meet, I think, the coolest character in this movie, and that's Lobster Johnson.
The lobster. Yes.
Oh, I Yeah, I had a thought watching that. I said, hey, this would be a much better movie than the one I'm currently watching.
My dude,
yeah.
how incredible
And I
would
have
it be?
So many questions.
Legendary Nazi hunter the lobster.
Yeah.
Like every successive word in that phrase makes it more fun and cooler than the one before it.
Absolutely. And we see him for 4 seconds. He gets 4 seconds of screen time, and they're the best seconds of the movie. He's so good.
I know. I said earlier the coolest fight sequence. I take it back. The one with the lobster guy is the coolest fight scene in this movie.
100%.
You're throwing this out. I think I can make a pretty good case for one particular fight sequence being the coolest one in the movie that we haven't talked about yet.
I'm interested to hear which one you think that is.
It's the one that makes you the most frustrated.
There's quite a few of those.
Most of them make me frustrated.
This was the point when I thought, I do have a note that says gross baby Hellboy. So I did catch the same thing. And I also thought Constantine was quite a bit better than this movie.
Yeah, I let you guys, I eased you into this. I need you to know that. I let you down easy.
This is your master plan, Constantine and then Hellboy?
Because I genuinely think if I dropped you right into Hellboy, I think there would have been a possibility of you guys being like, I don't want to do this podcast anymore. Like, legitimately, I don't want to do it.
Well,
it was tough. I almost turned this movie off and was like, I'll just look on Wikipedia to figure out how it ends. Like,
that means I nailed it. I'm so proud of this.
I don't think this was as bad as either Killer Clowns or Cue the Winged Bullshit.
Don't you dare talk about Killer Clowns that way.
Also, two of your movies.
Yeah, I have a special niche interest of film. What I like about this flashback is that it's so clear that someone who watched this movie, some studio head watched this movie and went, nobody's going to know who Hellboy is. Like, how did Hellboy become this? And they were like, well, okay, all right, I guess we'll do that. But like, that's not part of this movie. Like, that's not what we're here for. And they were like, it is now. Congratulations.
It is now. Here is a theme. Work this into the movie one other time, please.
Somebody watched the original Hellboy and said, hey, that was a pretty cool scene. Let's just copy and paste and call it a day.
But at least the original Hellboy had the common decency to show that at the beginning and then go, okay, now let's catch up with this character later, and not be like, hey, you know this guy? You know Hellboy? You know this guy Hellboy? You're about to learn about this guy Hellboy. And we were all like, oh, cool. I was on board with what you were doing, but okay, that's fine.
Okay, fine.
And it is interesting because they have that whole thing, and then they have the second exposition dump about Hellboy's origin with, you know, he's the son of King Arthur and
oh yeah, so you know what that
born in hell and all of that kind of stuff. Like they could have just left it as that.
Preston, you know what that
called it a day.
You know what that kind of sounds like? That kind of sounds like later in the movie talk.
Sorry.
I know that I've set a precedent.
Expositional flashbacks. I keep mixing them up in my head.
I know that I've set a precedent with the films that I have brought to this table, but I am dead set on going through this movie.
No. I'm so sorry. You're right. I should be looking at my notes a little bit.
Please look at your
sure
once again empty pages of notes.
Well, the problem here is Preston is going through the flashbacks chronologically in terms of when they took place in history.
Yeah,
not when they took place in the movie.
He cannot stand, ironically, the movie Pulp Fiction because he just keeps trying to watch it in order and it keeps not happening.
It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Where'd they get the briefcase? Where'd he get the briefcase?
I have my own cut that everything is ordered in the right order.
You also just you watch the movie Memento in reverse, which I think is a bold claim, but hey, whatever, man. Gruagach gets a box from the monks. It doesn't matter. He eats a tongue. None of that is anything.
I do. I have a small thing to point out.
I totally forgot about that.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Lincoln, did you have a note on this?
Oh, well, I just love, you can feel this movie trying to save money during this scene because the pig monster guy attacks the monastery and then it just shifts to a shot of the wall and there's all these shadows and it's like, oh yeah, way to make this sequence cheaper, guys. Just like show the shadows.
Just throw some hands at a wall.
Yeah, tell us that it's for the art and it's to make, we're hiding the monster that we already showed.
It's too scary. It's too scary, Lincoln.
But God damn it, we saved $150,000 not having to do this sequence.
It's true. I do like a positive from the Gruagach scene. I appreciate that he is partially practical effects. Like there is a section of his body that is practical effects, and then a section of his body, mostly the head, that's CGI. I think they blend those two pretty well. I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it really doesn't look bad.
He's a decent looking monster, and I appreciate that. We cut back to the wild hunt as it is beginning. This is after a hilarious little joke about how Hellboy doesn't like horns.
It's a very, very good joke.
He apologizes to a horse for some reason.
The horse's name is Long Shadow. Just wanted to point that out.
Wow.
Because there's a horse in Lord of the Rings called Shadowfax.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, did you just like really want to name him Shadowfax, but you couldn't get the license?
They knew that somebody would get on him about that. I could see that.
This isn't Shadowfax. This is Long Shadow.
This is dark email.
I didn't pick up on the horse's name, but I suddenly want either Hellboy in the Wild West or Hellboy in the Apocalypse on his horse called Long Shadow. And I want a shot of him wearing a cowboy hat where he's looking down. Mm-hmm. And then he brings his eye. Anyways, I just think that would make a much better movie than this.
And
he has his 6-shooter.
Right,
started. Exactly. And then he's got his revolver. Man, I really want a Wild West Hellboy.
That would be sick. That would actually be really cool.
That would be awesome.
Wait, hold on.
This is so awesome.
Because then with because I was thinking earlier too, because I forgot with the comic where it's like the zombie and like skeleton like wrestling match.
Yeah.
Like you have Hellboy who walks into a bar full of zombies and skeletons.
And it falls dead silent.
And he clears his trench coat from his revolver. And then we get a really cool scene.
That'd be so
and
rad.
It totally gels with a wandering desperado. Like he's on a mission, but he's just passing through.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And the movie would be just like one story.
And it'd be way cheaper to make.
Yeah.
And you could get
more entertaining.
You could fit my favorite line from the comics, which is "Back off, man. I've been drinking with skeletons." Easily the best part of the comic book. Wow. Let's make this movie, guys. Let's make a Hellboy movie.
That sounds awesome.
And then if you really wanted it to be present day, you could have him pass out at the bar. And then Professor Broom like comes in, like wakes him up. You could actually make it so it's like, a dad scene that's not, terrible.
You certainly could start there if you wanted to.
Imagine a concept.
Imagine this movie, but if it wasn't terrible. Hellboy is betrayed by the Osiris Club. He gets stabbed multiple times. And then he passes out in a river. Giant eats a bunch of them, and then Hellboy fights giants, which I think this scene's pretty sick. Honestly, I like this action sequence. I think it's pretty solid.
This action sequence is the most PG-13 energy I've ever seen in an R-rated movie.
And the rest of the movie's pretty R.
Yeah, it leans into it for sure.
Yeah, which is kind of like, I don't want to say like the best part, but something that they do a decent job of is like really leaning into the R rating.
Yeah.
Well, I think they lean into the R rating the way that a 14-year-old child would lead into an R rating.
14-year-old who's seen The Evil Dead, and he's like, all right.
Yeah, like, what does PG-13 have not enough of? Blood and fucks.
Yeah.
So like, let's just put a whole bunch of those in there.
Yes, because
and then it will be R.
He hasn't figured out about boobs yet, as has this movie not figured out that boobs exist. Do you think there was a cut of this that was PG-13 and then they were like, we could do it. We could make it R?
I honestly think a PG-13 version of this movie would be better.
But
it makes more sense as a PG-13. They could get away with more if it was a PG. Like the jokes would land better if it was PG-13.
That's true. The only thing that you would be missing, and I know that I'm breaking my own rule here, but we'll get to it, is the monster apocalypse that happens later.
I still think you could do something like that.
Yeah,
but they would be forced to like show the menace of the monsters without just showing them wreck a bunch of people.
But it wouldn't be so much fun to watch.
I guess not.
Is the problem. Hellboy fights giants. Any thoughts on Hellboy versus giants?
I think it's an okay. I think the sick guitar in the back is pretty overdone.
Yeah.
I I don't like. There's no indication of like what his powers and abilities are because he was just really, really stabbed, and he just keeps getting punched. And I was like, oh, okay, so he's immortal and invincible. Okay, got it.
And then he passes out because he's not.
Because he's not.
Yeah.
I feel like they made that scene as the original intro, like the first fight of the movie. And then they decided, hey, let's add. It was either intended to be the first, like the opening introductory scene to Hellboy. And then they decided, no, we're going to do Hellboy in Mexico instead. But also just add. It just seems like an opening introduction.
It definitely
fight more than an actual part of the story that matters and is interesting.
Because there's no stakes
cool.
at all, and it doesn't feel like it's
Right.
trying to add up to anything.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It totally does
Yeah.
feel like, okay, let's get this movie started. Let's show them something fun to keep them engaged.
Exactly, yeah. It's,
I
hey,
will
fun
say-
intro to Hellboy, not
I will say, big sword, cool.
Big sword, very cool.
Big sword
was
big
cool.
sword, extra cool.
Big sword, very
Was this
cool.
movie released in 3D? Because this whole sequence really feels 3D to me.
It does, but it feels like early 3D where they were like, you can make something
Yeah.
3D.
3D! Like, let's throw a baseball at the camera. Okay, let's throw a sword at the camera. Okay, now let's throw Hellboy at the camera.
We're throwing everything. We're gonna throw a giant. We're gonna throw. Who cares? Water doesn't matter.
Water. Go ahead.
I have a fun fact. My third fun fact is in this scene. Another
And you're going to wait already, okay?
Another mistake. Yeah, I'm gonna blow it. So Hellboy has this thing. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but it's called the right hand of doom, and what that is a big ass stone hand on the right hand on the right side. I don't know if you picked up on that. It was a subtlety of the film that I don't know if I don't know if you caught that, but it was a fun little.
Well, I did think it was. I knew it was the right hand of doom, but I did think it was made out of paper mache.
Well, that's
based on, like,
that's an
what it
understandable.
looks like when you
Rubber
watch
would
it.
also be an acceptable guess. But
spray painted styrofoam.
also very possible. My fun fact for this, though, is that at some point in the edit, they must have reversed one of the shots because it, for a couple of seconds, becomes the left hand of doom. Which is probably
Really?
my favorite thing about this movie because it's a thing you don't notice when you're watching it, and then you cannot unsee it at any point. I think it's very fun. Like, I understand why you would do that if somebody had like a slight scar on one side of their face and they had to, like, I don't know, the shot had to work. But it's like a pretty
big part of who he
pretty
is.
big thing. Which, that's my one gripe about the costume is the hand of doom is just so massive on this one that it feels like a thing that he has to hold on to, and like he's not holding on to the hand part, he's holding on to like the base of it, and then there's an arm and a hand at the end of that. Far too long.
Yeah, I definitely felt that.
It's ridiculous.
Boys, we are at joke 3 now.
Joke number 3.
Because there's a van heading towards him, and he says, "Is that my Uber?" like a cool hip kid, just like us. He's just like us, teens.
He's just like us.
Okay, continue.
No, I like that. That's fun. Do you ever think about how punchable most like Ryan Reynolds characters would be in real life? I think about that a lot, and I feel that way about this Hellboy. Like he's fun when you're not paying attention and you're just sort of watching the movie passively, and then you start taking notes on it, and you're like, God, this guy shouts so much, and then he makes stupid jokes, and you're like, I don't think I would be friends with this fella.
No, I don't think I'd be friends with this guy. I think I would be like, I would tell someone else about a joke he made and go like, can you believe that he made that joke?
Yeah, doesn't that sound like the worst kind of guy? Oh, also he's like maybe the son of a devil, but like other than that, it's really more the joke thing that I don't like.
It's really
about
more
him.
the out of taste humor, you know? He's like 45, but he's trying to act like he's 19 all the time. I don't really get it. He gets picked up.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he wakes up, he passes out, and he wakes up in Alice Monahan's apartment. She hears the dead. Again, don't fucking worry about it because it doesn't matter. That's a thing that this movie continues to remind us. People sometimes turn into tigers. Why? Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Stop it.
Stop asking. We'll show you, but then stop asking. He talks to her for a little bit. They say some stuff that doesn't mean anything. She's...
Oh, where joke 4 happens here.
What's joke 4? I love that you're counting these.
He says a Spanish word, and then she says, "Will you Google Translate that for me?"
Oh, that's good.
As a cool kid might say.
As a cool kid might say, or if you will, English, please. If people are talking too much sciencey bullshit.
Yeah. So there's joke 4. I'm gonna keep telling you this.
That's funny. Guys. That's comedy. That's jokes
That's
right there.
That's some good family humor. It's not too blue.
It's not.
The kids can relate.
It's safe. It's good. Even grandmas know about. God, sorry,
Google Translate.
I said that. Maybe? I couldn't even finish my thought because I just thought about the idea of saying, "Hey, my Southern grandma, do you want to watch Hellboy 2019?"
There's some really hip, fresh jokes.
There's some sick humor in this one. You're gonna dig it.
You will dig it. You will absolutely dig this fresh movie.
You were gonna dig the heck out of it. The BPRD invades just because they do. Professor Broom is back. He's in action for some reason. This is where we meet Daimyo, who is the guy who will eventually turn into a
Daniel
tiger.
Day Kim.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. That is who that is. And he's a guy.
I'm so sorry. We missed joke 5.
Oh, did we? Are you sure?
He says he mentions getting stabbed in the back, and it's like a pun because he got literally stabbed in the back. But it was also a metaphor.
I have a question.
So you see, humor is all about like layering, kind of the real and the imaginary. Like good jokes kind of elevate physical situations, or actually they elevate rhetorical situations into the world of the physical. So this was a very good joke.
Wow, that is funny. Did you?
I'm so glad, Lincoln, that you explained why these jokes are all funny.
I'm gonna do every one.
I love that you are so committed to this because I can tell that you do not want people to think for one single second that maybe they should watch this movie. You want to be so clear that there is nothing they are missing out on. Did any jokes work for you, by the way, Lincoln? Because there's one that worked for me real good.
There was one, and we didn't skip it. We skipped it because it wasn't like totally broadcast as a joke.
Okay, which one was it?
But it was when they're talking about the prophecy and that the world's gonna end, and he says, "I'd rather have some more relatable small stakes."
I like that too. Yeah, I could use a prophecy.
That was pretty funny. That kind of got me.
More relatable stakes. That's a good one.
Because I was like, movie. You can just because you say that though doesn't mean that you get away with not doing that. Like,
no, they
you can't just be like, we wrote this movie wrong.
they lampshaded it, so it's fine.
You can't, but that's you can lampshade silly, strange things, but you can't lampshade just like poor writing decisions.
I think you can by just looking at the camera and
they
saying,
sure tried.
"That's bad writing," don't you think? Don't you think that's bad writing? It's me, Hellboy. I mean Deadpool. I mean Hellboy.
Dead boy.
Dead pool boy.
Hellpool.
Preston, did any jokes work for you?
No.
Cool. We're gonna take a brief intermission,
Not a one.
boys. We're taking a brief intermission to my new favorite segment, the only one in the show that I bring, and also the only one that exists, called Find Your Funny. So we're just gonna.
I love Find Your Funny.
I wasn't sure if I could if like it would be appropriate for me to start this segment.
Hey, do you have one?
It is.
Do you
and
have
bring
something?
it up because I think it's absolutely time for us to find our funny.
Okay, yeah, anytime.
I don't have anything to contribute. I just think it's time.
Okay, hey, actually, you know what? That's important. Let's set the ground rules. You guys can always call Find Your Funny. You can always call Find Your Funny.
Okay, perfect.
And if you have a really
Excellent.
If you have a really good Find Your Funny, just tell me. Just tell me, because I usually I'm kind of winging it. I have one for this one, but I'm kind of winging it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's what I want you guys to do. I have a fun little game. We're gonna go back and forth. Preston, Lincoln, or the other way around. You each get 2 rounds. Okay, you each get 2 opportunities. To tell me something that you would like to see, because they are rebooting Hellboy. So something that you would like to see in the Hellboy reboot, pulling from like anything, just something that you would appreciate.
It a third time?
Yeah. It's already shot. There's nothing you can do to stop it. something that you would like to see in a Hellboy reboot. You tell me what that is, and then I will respond as the Hellboy fan base on Reddit. So let's go.
I would like to see a team with actual dynamics.
Fuck you, get Ron Perlman back. Preston?
We've already talked about this, and I'm going for the low-hanging fruit here, so you can tell me to fuck off. But my whole Hellboy in the Wild West bit.
That's a stupid idea. Fuck you, get Ron Perlman back. Lincoln?
I would like Ron Perlman to come back.
Fuck you, David Harbour was better. Preston?
Lincoln, well played.
All right, this has been Find Your Funny. It's a short one this time. That's all I had.
We're back. Nimue the Blood Queen is a way cooler name than this movie deserves.
That's true. That's very true.
And she's also, like, the character herself also just does not live up to that name.
Not even slightly. She is nothing in this movie.
She's like Nimue, the small itch behind your ear that you get right before you fall asleep.
I don't know. I feel like they make this big deal about, like, the plague and how she's giving out the plague. And I think there's 2 shots of her giving out the plague.
Yeah.
And then she just sort of sends a whole bunch of monsters to do her bidding.
Yeah, we get a news report, but plague-wise, we only see her take out, like, 1 guy, 2 guys, maybe 3? Mm-hmm. Maybe 3. It's not a lot of guys.
And isn't it, I don't think even at the very end, when she's supposedly back and at full strength, there's just sort of the ground demons.
Yeah, she does almost nothing. It's funny you should mention her because we do get introduced to her in the next segment of the film, which is them going back to the Osiris Club. And they go in and they find that turns out...
Oh, wait. Guys, we skipped joke number 6.
Did we skip joke? Man, well, let's go back to joke number 6. Let's take a quick detour and jump right on back to joke number 6.
Right before they get to the Osiris Club, Hellboy is handed a box with a gun. And then he says, some dads get their kids Legos.
Yeah. Can you imagine a joke more like written for a trailer than that joke? Because I can't.
I don't think I can. And also, Lego is the plural of Lego.
Is
so
it?
He should have just said Lego.
Are you sure? Mm-hmm. It's not Legos?
Yeah, Lego refers to the system. Lego bricks are the noun form.
Well, then,
so Lego is like, it's like the whole system is Lego.
Well, they made a huge mistake then, because why did they call it the Legos movie?
I don't know.
They should never have done that.
Maybe it was a localization issue.
That was dumb of them. We see Lady Hatton, the lady we met one time. She's dead now. Her head's been twisted like 8 times, which is a lot of times.
Is that Psychic Lady?
Yeah, that's Psychic Lady.
Okay, thank you. Exposition Machine number 2.
Yeah, that's correct. Which this is where we're sort of introduced to probably the grossest, like the worst effect, and I do not say that lightly because Hell Baby exists. The grossest,
the recycled venom.
The even somehow like worse and grosser than the Venom villain character. Like look.
Did you guys ever watch the G.I. Joe movie?
Yeah.
The animated one from the 90s?
No.
Oh, well, in the end of the movie, they fight like the Snake King, and the top half of his body is a person, and the rest of it is like a 10-foot long snake.
Sick.
And that's all I could imagine every time they do this like dead flashback is the good old Snake King.
Did you ever watch The Scorpion King and or Spy Kids? Because that's sort of the energy that this brings to me.
Oh, yeah.
I fully don't remember what she says. It doesn't matter. I don't think. Who cares?
She never really I think blanking on not Psychic Lady, talks to the dead lady.
Alice?
Yeah, Alice. Does she do anything in this movie besides act as a mouthpiece for other characters to give us more exposition?
Good question. Later on, she's going to punch the souls out of some people inexplicably. Again, don't worry about it. Just a thing.
I do not remember that at all.
Boy, this is going to be fun. I'm excited because the closer we get to the end of this movie, the less I remember, and I've seen it a lot of times, so it's going to be really fun to watch
perfect.
you guys have no concept of what I'm talking about.
That's really ideal. You know, it's funny how many times I feel like I've said this, but I watched this movie, you know, I think I finished it about 20 minutes before we started recording.
Yes.
And I still have very little recollection for what actually happened.
It should be fresh on your mind, but it is profoundly stale.
It is not. There's a scene where Hellboy makes like force ghost contact with the queen, the Blood Queen.
Yeah, okay, that's this scene. That's this one.
And I'm trying to reverse engineer that because all my notes say is Last Jedi looking ass. And I was like, why did I write that?
Yeah, that's this scene. That's because of this.
Great. And then we have here is our third historical flashback with narration.
Yes, yeah. So actually, so we have Hellboy versus Gruagach for like 2 seconds, the first round. Hellboy meets Nimue, and then I assume you're talking about Alice's backstory with the Gruagach?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're right. We do flashback. I don't remember how we get to that flashback at all.
I don't either.
Cool.
I just remember that we got there. It was really sudden.
We really hit you out of nowhere. This is where you get another Hellboy short story adapted into a film format, where Hellboy is just, I guess we assume, has been contracted by these parents to come in and look at their baby because it's been acting weird. They don't explain a lot of that. Hellboy comes in and he's got some facial hair, so you know it was like earlier, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure what... I don't know what they wanted us to get from that, but he looks worse.
It's in his grunge face.
He's in his grunge era.
5 o'clock shadow ever.
You can see
so terrible.
exactly where the makeup artists put every single hair. Like you can watch them go and do it.
I don't actually think there's any hair. I think they just sort of rubbed some soot on there and called it a day.
I guess that's possible.
There is zero like texture or depth or anything,
which is pretty sick. I mean, you know, if you can save a little money, like the scene earlier, save a couple bucks.
Save a couple bucks. It's just as good. No one can tell the difference.
It looks just as good. We're only watching this in 720p guaranteed, so that's good. Yeah. Any thoughts on that backstory other than just like Hellboy touches a baby weird?
with a horseshoe?
I mean, that's not the best way to summarize the movie, that part. But I'm not going to correct you.
I mean, it is what happens. This is where we get Pigman's aggression against Hellboy because he touched him with iron, and for some reason that makes him unable to turn into a human again.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Right.
Okay, here's my thing with this. We didn't need this at all.
No, we didn't.
Not even.
Honestly, you know, it almost makes him like more. Like, it makes me like knowing more about the character makes me less interested in him.
Is that Hellboy or the Gruagach?
It doesn't matter.
Yes, but mostly Gruagach.
Yeah, I get that.
Whatever Warpig's name is.
Warpig.
Just
Warpig. Oh, hey, Preston, stop it. Stop it. You can't do this to us.
Yeah, hey, come on.
Stop talking about better movies with similar tone.
Don't remind us of a way better movie.
Yeah, like they should have just kept him as, hey, cool pig henchman.
Yeah.
And called it a day.
Yeah, he didn't need this. And like, okay, this to me feels so much like, and I will go on a limb and say, if you didn't have him scream all the time and brought this out into a 6-episode limited series, this could actually be really good. If you reformatted it into a way that's like, okay, and then this episode, we're going to take some time, have a slow moving story about Hellboy getting to know this family, learning about this, like what's going on with this baby. And then he fights a little weird fairy thing at the end. That's an interesting episode. The Baba Yaga stuff would be an interesting episode. And then you like build up to Nimue, the Blood Queen, all of that. Like I could see that working, but as it is, this movie it has too much. It's too much going on and stuff that you like.
It's just
you don't need.
It's very much like, you guys know Hellboy, right? We read the whole entry of Hellboy in the encyclopedia. We read it in Wikipedia, and we're gonna put everything we saw in there.
Yeah, which is so funny to me because this is adapting the last story in Hellboy's run. This is his end game. They're like, and for some reason they were like, we're gonna reboot Hellboy and start with that. Where do you go from there?
That's like, we have a great idea for a Lord of the Rings reboot. It's going to start with Frodo and Sam, and they're climbing up the volcano, and they're about to throw the ring in. And before they get there, they have some wacky hijinks, and they learn something a little about each other and a lot about themselves. And then they throw the ring in, and then now they've begun.
And we're hoping it's going to be a trilogy.
Spin off a universe.
Let's see, where do we go from here? Quick scene of Nimue being sewn together. This is one of few scenes that reminds me that the director of this made a really good horror movie at one point, and then don't know what happened. But this also is here.
The witches are freaky. The sewing is really gross.
That's a really good scene with Nimue.
Yeah.
And my other... You know what? Okay, Lincoln, there is a good joke that works for me in this movie. And it's not a joke. It's just a gag of when she's sitting on the couch and her arm is disconnected holding the remote.
Oh, that's very good.
Yes. That was a good visual
pretty
gag.
good.
That's some good stuff. We go to...
People talk about like math or something. Oh, Daniel Day Kim,
Oh.
Daimyo, is like, it's just math. Hellboy's evil because math.
Oh yeah. When this is in...
And then that never gets revisited.
yeah, this is
Yeah,
in...
he's like, I'm going to kill Hellboy
That would
because
have made
math.
that character so much more interesting.
I mean, he almost
if
shoots
he
him.
had his whole internal arc
almost
of,
shoots
well,
him.
the math says this, but I think this.
How do we feel about the one Asian character in this whole movie having the only speech about math in the whole movie?
I feel like it's better than some of the other movies we've watched. Yeah, that's not great. That's not a great look. They go to the BPRD in England. Daimyo goes and does his little special bullet quest, which does get sort of followed up on. It's just sort of off screen mostly, and then you see the end of it, which you could have a Daimyo spin-off episode. That's where you should put his his backstory and all that. That'd be great. Which, okay, if you guys were to guess, no, I'm not even going to make it. I'm not going to gamify this. Daimyo to me feels like a character from an entirely different story that they were like, we should put him in there because he turns into a big tiger man, and that's pretty cool. And I think that the reason that he feels that way is because that's 100% what happened, and it's true. That's what it is. He is.
Yep.
He is from the BPRD stories. He has absolutely nothing to do with Hellboy, aside from just being in the same world.
It's almost confusing because Warthog Dude's a changeling, which he never changes again.
On account of the
Seems like
iron.
that sort of. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I forgot that crucial piece of information that was never shared. It was almost confusing to me. Like, oh, he's a changeling too. Like, so there's good ones and there's bad ones. It just sort of. It's like they use it as a gag in that fight, and then they use him again at the very end for the gag of Hulk being angry to make it come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I feel like strangely free that I have no conception of the Hellboy lore, because John, you having an idea of it must have just seen this whole movie as just a series of like, hey, remember this? Hey, remember this? Hey, remember this?
That's all this movie is. That's all it is.
Did they just sit everybody down in a room and said, hey, here's what they did. They took their stack of Hellboy comics and they passed out, so everybody had like 3 or 4 issues. And they said, all right, we're going to brainstorm. Everybody read your issues of Hellboy. None of them are a consecutive story. And just randomly pick your favorites. We're going to make a big list, and that's how we're going to do this movie.
That makes
They're
sense.
like, everyone write 3 pages of script based on one comic. And then we're going to just put them all in a big pile, kind of, collate them, make them all lined up and just staple that shit. That's the movie.
We're sending that.
Anything that looks cool, cut out your favorite parts in every comic book. We're going to put them up on a big board, and then everybody gets a dart. You're going to throw the dart at the board, and whatever you hit, that's what we're including in this movie.
I feel like that has
But
to
remember,
be
you
what
only get 150 tries.
each person only gets 150.
There's 10 of us, and everybody gets 10 darts. I hope that's enough ideas.
I don't know if that'll work. Also, no ideas are bad ideas. Also, no ideas are left on the table. We're doing all of your ideas.
Someone's like, I think we could like have a woman who's like in a whole bunch of pieces. Yes. Oh, and also King Arthur. Yes.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
also look, Jaguar Boy. Yes.
Also,
The test audience we're going to show this to is just going to be a bunch of the elderly. We're going to ask them, hey, is this something that your teenage grandson and or granddaughter would want to watch and entertain them?
it's gonna be the elderly, and it's gonna be a room full of 12-year-old boys who've never seen an R-rated movie in their life, and then we're gonna ask the 12-year-old boys, was that cool, dudes? And they're gonna be like, yeah, it was cool. And then we're gonna ask the old people.
That was pretty cool.
We're gonna ask them like, do you guys know what Google Translate is? Are you familiar with Uber? Cool, good, great. We're
Yes,
good.
we
now.
are. We covered all our possible audience.
That's the only audience we could possibly have is the elderly and children.
Both of whom are known for frequenting action CGI superhero
Man, they
movies.
love them comic book movies. The elderly, they love them. Just ask Martin Scorsese.
And then they said, hey, let's double check and make sure our jokes are funny by going to a bookstore and buying every single different variety of 99 jokes to tell, and then confirming that the joke in the script is also in one of those books.
Yeah, and then sitting
but,
someone
but
down.
they didn't make any changes. They were 100% success rate.
Yeah, and we
every
gotta,
single joke was in there.
they had to sit somebody down and they had to read them the jokes that they included in the script at gunpoint, and they said, "Is this funny? Is this funny?"
Is this funny?
Anyway, so this is where Hellboy visits the Baba Yaga, a scene that I knew was in this movie, and again had no concept of where or when or how or why. And I
Maybe because it
Still
doesn't fucking matter.
I still don't know. Still don't know why. Still don't know. I know where because I have the notes. But yeah, no, it
I
doesn't
think
matter.
that's the scene the first time I watched this movie where I think I hit pause and then went and did something else.
And you're like, you know what? I could be living my life. I could be out in the world. I could see the sun. I don't mind this scene. I think it's a fun little scene. And Baba Yaga is an interesting, weird character. It's just we're too late in the movie for me to be like, oh, cool, we're doing something fun. And now it's just like, oh, really? You could have been doing fun stuff the whole time? Like all of it
Yeah.
could have been fun and good.
It would have been a good exposition dump, like 3 exposition dumps ago.
Yeah.
Especially if they really leaned into, hey, this person just grabbed you, and now like this is like if she had started him on the quest
That would have been interesting. Yeah,
of
start
like
with her.
figuring out what's going on instead of just, hey, creepy witch is gonna try to get his eyeball.
Yeah, instead of a whole scene for one single piece of information that could have probably been
Right.
solved with Google Maps.
Well, they already used their Google joke.
That's true.
John.
Speaking of jokes, there is a joke in this scene that is the only joke that make me laugh heartily.
Is it that take a shit ton of bones?
That's a shit ton of bones. That's the best joke. That is easily the best joke in this movie when Baba Yaga says that they're going to build a statue miles high or whatever she says of the bones of your enemies, and Hellboy goes, that's a shit ton of bones.
Do you think he was scripted to say that, or he was just kind of musing?
Nope. That is exclusively that is the only time David Harbour ever shows his face in this movie.
Well, they said, hey, we don't have a script yet, but we do have like the frame. We have the bones of the script. We have the framework here, and we'd love for you to look at it.
He goes, that is a shit ton of
So
bones.
that's a shit ton of bones. They're like, write that down, Dave. Write it down. That's hilarious.
I do. Preston, I love this metaphor because I love this idea of the writers were like, if we assemble enough bones, if we outline this story enough times, it's gonna just happen, right? Like
It'll just be a script. It'll become script. You water that, leave it in the sun,
yeah.
it becomes script. And then the
They said,
day,
hey, we're really going to lean into the necromancy part, the necromancy lore here.
yeah. Yeah, they thought that would work, and then they day of shooting, they checked their little sunroom, and they were like, this is just bones still. It's still just bones.
It's like when they would take random bones and then figure out some way to put them together, regardless of if they fit together like that anatomically.
Yeah.
We got like, so they're like early paleontologists.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
They're like, did you know T-Rexes had 18 arms? Did you know that? That's crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
Something eyes, quick daimyo backstory on the way to Pendle Hill. There's a zombie fight in the forest that Preston forgot.
Daimyo was just in The Predator. He was in the movie The Predator.
Yeah, he was in the movie The Predator,
right?
but with a tiger man, a tiger monster man.
Yes.
Zombie fight in the forest.
You know, I do vaguely remember the zombified forest now.
There you go. It comes
Because
out of
I
nowhere.
remember watching it going, this is how you're going to make stakes for this movie?
Yeah, zombie forest to get up a hill, and then it's that scene, and then they're up the hill, and we're fine, and it's good. Nimue raises a monster army. She poisons Alice, which, okay, this is where in the movie I thought that this was the end of it, and I thought that we were in the third act. Like, I thought that we were done with it. And then the movie, and then Nimue, and this is how I think you write a good villain, is when you are so tired of the movie happening that Nimue can look in the screen and go, fuck you, and then she can just back into a portal, and you're like, no, that's a villain.
No, please.
she's evil.
You're right. I totally forgot that somehow they go from the tree, which would have been a really cool spot for a final showdown,
You'd think, wouldn't you?
to the church.
Yeah.
For the final
You know,
showdown.
given how much effort it took for him to get the location and how much time it took for them to get to the top of the hill,
Yeah.
you think that maybe the showdown would happen
Right.
at the place that the whole movie's been building up to until now.
You'd think
That's
that
true.
it would.
She gets there through a portal. How does Hellboy get there?
He gets a helicopter. That's where we learn about Daimyo. Oh, are you talking about the church? He gets to the church by way of Scotland, I guess, somehow. Because he
he just walks to Scotland and then walks back.
They pretty much. They take a thing out of Alice, like a poison needle. Another thing that could have been a part of this movie, like that could have been a movie. That journey could have been a movie, not a movie. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's right.
Hellboy learns.
Oh, that's true. They go to. That's right. They go to ancient night dude.
Yes.
Okay. They're sorry.
They go to Merlin.
I was gonna say,
they go to actual
Not ancient.
motherfucking Merlin.
It's Merlin. It's God's honest Merlin. Like they just
God's honest Merlin.
They see him.
The ugliest rendition of Merlin I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
life.
guaranteed. He gets it tells Hellboy about that he was, I guess, from a devil and also the daughter of the son of Merlin or whatever, or not Merlin, but King Arthur. Hellboy touches the sword.
The
in
son of the
stone.
daughter of King Arthur.
Yeah,
There we go. Thank you.
Hellgirl. Hellgirl touches the stone, the sword in the stone. Sees probably a cool part of this movie to me. I like this bit.
Yeah, this part's fun.
He sees like he could be the bringer of the apocalypse, and he chooses not to, and Merlin is like, that sucks, dude, and so then he dies, and then Hellboy walks away. Now they go to the church while Monster Apocalypse is happening.
Yep.
Which Monster Apocalypse starts here, but it ends later on when Hellboy again somehow gets the sword in the stone, which is like.
Yeah, wait. Was there two swords?
No, it was one sword. So here's what happened. So Merlin said
Merlin was phasing it into his reality and that's why it was all shaky.
he was phasing it into current, and then he said, "Oh no, it's gone back to King Arthur's tomb, a place that no one knows where it is." And then Hellboy falls through the floor of a church, and it's like, "Well, I'll be fucked. That's King Arthur's tomb right here, right here where I
and
fell."
the sword still okay. I did not understand why there were two swords.
That's understandable.
So thank you for clearing that up.
Happy to help. Okay, now we're in the final battle. Final business. Hellboy gets moral decision.
Finally.
Does he become a big bad man or does he not? Kind of both. A bunch of monsters tear literally everyone's face off, but don't worry about that because there's enough people left, I guess, later that we don't even care.
We will repopulate.
It doesn't matter.
And it's not even like all those shots are in there. There's zero stakes. There's zero interest. It's just, hey, big CGI monsters have now appeared.
Yeah.
And then just as quickly, hey, big CGI monsters have now disappeared.
Yeah, 100%.
John, is big CGI monsters have appeared, just like your mantra.
That's
just
as good as I have that on a shirt. Big CGI monsters have appeared.
I thought about when he takes the sword from the stone and then he grows his fire crown, which is kind of cool.
Pretty
I'd
sick.
say.
Pretty
and
sick.
his horns grow out all the way and he looks awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, how metal would it be for this movie to just end right here?
That would be sick.
Like it's just like fuck you. We're done.
He gets
You're
it.
gonna have to come watch the sequel.
He becomes the Batman. Hellboy, 2019. Come back for Hellboy 2.
Back to the streets. Whatever.
Hellboy 2, the trench.
To hell, to boy.
to Hell 2 boy. We get Hellboy versus Gruagach round 2. This is the only note that I'm proud of for this because most of it's just story. I wrote that Gruagach's on that Scrappy Doo shit from Scooby Doo 1 because he looks disgusting, big CGI monster man. I don't know. Any thoughts on the last of this? Hellboy decides not to. He gives the best joke in the movie for sure, which is stop while you're ahead. It's a terrible joke.
Oh yeah, I wrote that. He cuts off the bad girl's head and throws her head into hell. And yeah, so he wins. Oh, when the monsters disappear again, there's this really fun little it's like probably 5 seconds of a shot of the city and the smoke like returns and there's this little CGI manhole cover that does a little spin.
Oh yeah, that
and
is
falls
good.
right back into
that's
place.
Right.
That's a good
And
time.
there's like
I did enjoy
there was
that.
a overworked CGI artist who took like 6 hours and just like nailed the timing and physics of that little manhole cover. And I was just watching that. I was like, I see you. Like, thank you for your little attention to detail there. It looks nice.
That makes me kind of
Good job,
sad
dude.
because he probably gave him several like versions, and they're like, "That seems a little heavy. That seems a little light. Can you make it more funny? Sorry, can you make it less funny?"
But then he did it. He made
out
the
of 10.
perfect CGI bouncing, falling back in. It was great.
He nailed it.
Oh yeah, so this is the time to talk about what I think is the best action scene in the whole movie.
Okay.
Which is after the team has been formed, the team that should have been forming this whole time, but there was no indication of the team forming.
Yeah.
And they are at a base, and then it's this wonderful one shot of very much like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where you're jumping between every person individually attacking a horde of bad guys. And then they're like, sometimes they work together, sometimes they're individuals, sometimes they like throw someone and the other one catches them.
Yeah.
And it's timed well to the music and it's engaging and it's fun. And then the movie's over.
And then that's
it's
the
like,
end of the movie. Okay, having
It's like,
seen,
oh, you could have.
because of that good scene in Guardians 3, does that not feel a little bit like Guardians 3, but if you got it on like Wish? Like if you got the great value version of Guardians 3 and it was just like
Yeah, it's the great value.
Yeah.
It's not, of course, it's not as good.
it's not. It is probably it's up there though in terms of scenes in the movie.
It's just very much like, oh, hey, we could have been doing this the whole time.
This could have been
We could have, and we chose not
the
to.
whole movie and we gave you the different movie. Yeah, well, we also that ends with a teaser of things to never come ever, which is Abe Sapien. And there's post credits. Did you guys watch the post credits?
I watched the one with the lobster,
Yeah.
and my note just said, he remember.
He sure do remember. What?
I
don't know
definitely
why
had
I
a thought where I said, hey, maybe there's a post-credit scene. And then I said, no, I don't need to watch anymore.
Love that commitment. I love that.
What was the second one?
No, there was just one. It was just that one.
Oh, there's just one?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's just
okay.
Wait, there's a lobster in it?
there's the mid credit
The
scene.
Nazi hunter dude?
Yeah, with Lobster Johnson, and he's a ghost, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, you got to get back in the fight, Hellboy," because apparently Hellboy's sad again, a thing we did not know. But
Because his dad died.
Hellboy's sad again because his yucky, gross CGI snake dad died, and he tells him you got to get back in the fight, and then Hellboy's like, "You're right," and then he gets excited because he's a fan of Lobster Johnson. It's a cute little scene. It's nothing, but it's cute.
It's fine. He remember.
He sure do remember. And that, boys, that fellas, is Hellboy 2019, a movie that I still adore so deeply, and I have no reasoning for it. I love it so much.
This movie is a cinematic equivalent to putting a bunch of flour and salt and water in a bowl and then not mixing the bowl and setting it out in the noonday sun and coming back an hour later and being like, why is this not bread yet?
This movie is the cinematic equivalent of a dog walking over to you, and as soon as you start to pet the dog walks away.
This movie is the cinematic equivalent of a 12-year-old who's really fucking stoked about it, explaining all of the Infinity Saga to you as quickly as possible.
This is the cinematic equivalent to when you get a hangnail and you start peeling it and you realize it's going to pull a lot of skin and there's going to be a lot of blood, but you're too far gone now, so you just got to keep peeling. And then you end up with like literally half your fingernail is just exposed to the air now.
Oh.
This is the cinematic equivalent to inhaling through your nose so hard that you get a headache.
This is the cinematic equivalent of drinking so much caffeine that you feel like you're gonna die, and then trying to eat food to counteract the caffeine, but then you get sleepy, so you take a little caffeine. This is also the cinematic equivalent of looking at a cactus, thinking, hey, that's a pretty cactus, touching the cactus and going, that's a real cactus, and then you're like, well, I got a life experience out of it.
This is the cinematic equivalent of when you have something stressful to wake up for, and so you wake up at like 5 a.m. and then you're like, it's too early, and you go back to sleep, and then you wake up at 5:10, you go back to sleep, and then you wake up at 5:20, and you just keep waking up over and over again, like, it's still not time.
That might be the one. Yeah, I think that's it. All right.
Yep. I think we've Yep.
Yeah, we've exhausted our resources. Thank you, everybody, for
thing.
listening to Twinkie Talk. Next time we publish an episode, we are doing, it's going to be our special Christmas extravaganza.
So get out your stockings, put them on. No one ever wears their stockings. Haven't you ever noticed that?
Yeah, because that's insane. That's nuts. That's crazy. There's oranges and candies in there and whatnot.
It used to be like you actually put your socks over the fire to dry them, and then Santa would like sneak a little extra present in there. But now we just have dedicated present socks.
What a fucking creep, that Santa Claus. Can you imagine being like, these are my nasty ass socks. I'm going to put a candy in it. I'm going to put a little yum yum for him. Ugh.
I'm going to put an orange that your nasty little hands have to fish out of this gross Victorian sock.
I hate that. I hate it. Ugh. It's going to be warm because it's over a fire and everything.
I'm going to put this warm orange with cloves in it.
Only Lincoln would give us a history lesson on the Christmas tradition of stockings.
Wow, that's true. That's impressive. He snuck one in. He almost didn't go teacher mode on this one.
He really does do the teacher thing.
I try my best.
Lincoln, thank you for Lincolning.
Yeah.
I was terrified that we were going to go through a full episode without you Lincolning.
It was close. It was really close.
You're welcome. You're so welcome.
We've decided for our Christmas episode that we are going to give ourselves a little treat in our nasty ass little socks. And that treat in our socks is the movie The Nice Guys from whenever that movie came out. I want to say 2016.
2016 or 17.
It's whenever that movie was. So watch that movie. Is there homework? I don't think so, right?
No, there shouldn't be.
I think
it's winter break.
This is. I feel like this is important to mention that we've been good little boys all year, so we're rewarding ourselves with a good movie.
Oh God, we've been the best little boys. We've been the best. Boys.
The next episode will be us talking about a good movie and not a terrible movie,
because we deserve it.
And the next. We'll get right back into punishment after that.
Well, yeah, we're going to start a new year. We got to get on the diet.
Which I'm just realizing we can't do the cinematic punishment. So is this like watching this movie is the cinematic blessing?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
You know, we've got our
cinematic reward
to our little bit at the end, and now we have to change it for the new format.
Are we even going to have to find our funny? I guess we'll find out. Tune in next time, whatever that is.
Tune in next time for something we've never done before.
Thing that we don't know.
It could be better than our normal content. It could be even worse. Who knows?
It could be markedly worse than our content. There's a chance this is the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening to Twinkie Talk. We have a Gmail. We have a Gmail, twinkietalkpodcast@gmail.com.
Please email us.
Please email us, or just like
if you email us, you will 100% get on the show.
It is a guarantee. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be horrible words, horrible, terrible words.
It could be fart, fart, fart. We would say it out loud.
I would say it many times, probably. I don't know, like review the show, whatever people say to do. And this is it. I have been Brother John, and that is a shit ton of bones.
I have been Brother Lincoln. I could crash you from here.
I've been Brother Preston. Some dads get their kids Legos.
That's the best one, Preston. That was great.